Also breaking at this hour, the all clear now given after a bomb threat at a Georgia power plant in Newton. Highway 16 was shut down and plant employees were evacuated for hours. The Coweta County Sheriff's Office says a threat referencing an explosive device was found in a portable toilet. Just moments ago, the Coweta County Fire Investigates said the threat had been cleared. Also tonight, we are diving into Metro Atlanta's criminal justice system after a deadly stabbing along Atlanta's Beltline.
Atlanta police tell us the suspect, this man, Johnathan Hamby, had been arrested 30 times and was a convicted felon. So the question his own family is now asking, why was he on the street? Atlanta News First senior reporter Patrick Quinn live along the Atlanta Beltline. And Patrick, you dug into his criminal history. He was in handcuffs as recently as March.
Johnathan Hamby, he was arrested in March, just 5 months ago, but he was released on conditions of probation. And some of those conditions included mental health, a plan there, as well as an anger management plan. It's unclear if he met those conditions. We did reach out to the DeKalb County judge in that case. We have not heard back yet, but tonight we're hearing from the family of Johnathan Hamby, a very heartfelt letter where they have the same questions of why was he on the street and why was he with a weapon here along Atlanta's Beltline. Just within the hour, the family sent this letter. It's absolutely gut-wrenching to read. Let's be clear. Johnathan Hamby has only been charged, not convicted, for felony murder and yesterday's stabbing. But Hamby's family apologized to the family of the man stabbed, Ramon Harris. In terms of Hamby's criminal history, I looked into it. Most recently in DeKalb County in 2023, he pleaded guilty to aggravated assault and use of a knife in a felony. Hamby served 2 years in prison. A judge reduced his sentence from 10 years. Between 2023 and 2026, Hamby spent time at DeKalb, Gwinnett, and Fulton County jails on multiple other criminal charges. He was released from Gwinnett's jail this past December, only to be arrested again in March for that probation violation. Like I mentioned, he was released with probation conditions, which brings us to yesterday, a deadly stabbing along the Beltline. Today, in the hours after, Atlanta's assistant police chief told city leaders the region has cracks in the criminal justice system.
Something that we continue to struggle with, and so as we continue to work with the criminal justice system, we all need to play a part in that.
We have now just seen these flowers laid in honor of the victim, Ramon Harris. I was able to talk with some of the individuals who left those flowers there. Also along the Beltline, we're seeing a lot of police. The city says they will increase patrols, those on bicyclists in the short term as they look for long-term solutions. And Jonathan's family, in this letter, they wrote that he was suffering from severe psychosis. He was set to have his first appearance. He waived that in court today. His next appearance is mid-September. Live along Atlanta's Beltline, Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.